Hello and welcome back. My name is Unusual, and today we are going to go over the crazy and frankly awesome history of teacups. As always, give this video a big fat like and give that like button a nice gentle hug. First, we got to start with what even is this thing? Is it a cup? Is it a bowl? Maybe to get a better picture, we have to look at an old school teacup, and by that I mean more of like an 8th century teacup, where they typically would just have no handles on them at all, and were actually just really tiny little bowls. Which is kind of funny because I was 100% joking when I was asking if it was a bowl or not. Regardless, the first ceramic teacups that we see of is used by the Chinese during the Tang Dynasty, which this happened around like 618 to like 907 AD, and the first designs, if you really want to call it that, considering they were like super duper duper rudimentary, the cup was so small that you could hold it with about 2 or 3 fingers, and it was really only good for like one good sip, which is much kind of like a Capri Sun, if you will, for the modern day. But during the Song Dynasty was where a large spike in tea enthusiasts would actually come about. And this is when we start to see more like fancy teacups come out with sophisticated designs and even tea rituals, like tea pets, which when they came into the mix, they are honestly just a little pal that sits with you while you drink, and every first pour that you do it over the head of your little stone friend. And this is what said little stone friends kinda look like, so enjoy some pictures of them. Anyways, on the high end, the actual physical action of serving and pouring the tea became much more than what it was. It began to become like a symbol of peacefulness and to raise the awareness of the world around you, for you to really enjoy being in the moment while you drink a warm beverage and really just take in your surroundings. So not only did coffee cups and coffee pots have such a crazy spiritual upgrade, but also the actual service of pouring the tea and serving it to somebody else also did. But you can't talk about teacups unless you talk about its little brother, the saucer plate that goes underneath it. This is commonly the one that goes right underneath the cup to support it from any kind of spilling, but you probably more recognize it from the fact that it's a plate that's not even big enough to hold a sandwich. But that's not what it's for, so it's okay. Saucers really only started getting made for cooling down the drink, but have evolved over time with famous older brother teacups incorporating new colors, designs, and materials. But speaking more on the actual material side, there are really only 3 consistent choices that you make for making a teacup out of, and those going from the top to the bottom of the list. First is porcelain, and this ironically is the first widely used, mostly because it was considered very durable as well as something everyone could be able to get. Just a little bit of clay, glass, bone ash, and alabaster, and you would be able to make a paste that you could mold a cup and often obtain a simple but elegant drinking cup. The second one is bone china, and these cups have a creamy coloring since the cup is actually made up of 30% bone ash. And what you're thinking, yes, they are really made out of real bones, but they also have more of a value because they are less brittle than porcelain. And the last common teacup material is stoneware. Stoneware is a unique option because it comes in different styles or even paint schemes, seeing as the other 2 options only really can be certain shapes. Regardless of that, they are also only able to really be like one color, either a really bright translucent or a creamy color. And also, I'm just going to throw in this fact at the end of the video that the British only started putting handles on teacups around 19th century, and that kind of makes me giggle a little bit just because they already had been putting handles on chocolate milk cups in the 17th century, so it took them around like 150 years to start putting grips to teacups. I will grant them, on the other hand, since they really just copied the initial design of the original cups that were ported to them, and they wanted to stay as traditional as possible. I wanted to throw in this last little fact before the metaphorical YouTube door kind of closes, that British author named George Orwell actually wrote an essay that was called A Nice Cup of Tea. And in this essay, he essentially just brought up the age-old argument of this goes in the bowl and then this goes in the bowl. And he was actually quoted by saying, "Indeed, in every family in Britain, there are probably 2 schools of thought on the subject." And then he was again quoted by saying, one can exactly regulate the amount of milk, whereas one is liable to put too much milk in, and if the other way around is done. Basically just saying that you should pour your tea before adding milk as a way to get the perfect ratio, and this absolute solid G of a man ended the essay with, I maintain that my own argument is unanswerable, which translated is, y'all bitches are wrong and I'm right, eat a dick. Which honestly, that is just kind of crazy.